grown weary. Um, if you've grown weary with your call or find yourself snapping at others, wondering if that form of call may have come to a close and there may be a new form. I find that often when people are in that in between stage between the forms of call, that they'll often take a class or seek out a spiritual director. So I'm going to end with my dream for this center is that we would have at least one Zoom group and maybe more of spiritual, either spiritual directors or sponsors, 12-step sponsors, people who are in the role of companioning others to discern call is my real hope for this center. That's probably enough. Thank you, Bill, for a chance to speak about it. This graphic of the labyrinth is perfect for call. It's not a dead end. You find yourself in the center, and then you have to turn around and find your way back. I think that spirals through our lives. So thank you, Lindsay, for choosing that.
No. Thank you, Marjorie, so much. And as Marjorie alluded, and I probably should have spoken more specifically to this when I got us started. The as part of the renovations on the first floor and the second floor of the turret, the rounded part of our building, the first floor is a chapel, and then the second floor is has kind of been a meeting room. But what we want to do is kind of tie those two areas, meaning we want to consecrate those two areas as what we're calling the Center for Spiritual Formation, and that those will be spaces exactly as Marjorie has beautifully laid out, that people can either have classes, there can be spiritual direction meetings, there can be mission group meetings, and both for Church of the Savior, because obviously we're naturally aligned and affiliated with Church of the Savior happily, but also for other faith communities too. So we want to make it a vibrant place and I love the way that Marjorie talks about call as the nexus between the inward and the outward journey. And so we want to make sure that there is that kind of space where so much of the work that'll be happening in the building is directly impacting the outward journey, but yet is very connected through the Center for Spiritual Formation to the inward journey. So I want to bring on Jim Marsh, who is, he is ordained by the United Methodist Church, but he's still a good guy. When you meet someone and you just feel like you've known them for about 10 years, the second I met Jim, I just thought, man, I feel like I've known this guy forever. He's been an incredible friend, and we've only known each other for a year and a half, and most of that has been over Zoom because of the pandemic. So, Jim, I'm just so grateful to you and for your leadership. He's a member of and a leader in Bread of Life Church, and I worship with him on Thursday nights, and he leads us in communion a lot, and it's some of the most meaningful communion times that I've ever had, and it's over Zoom, which is to me just incredible. So Jim's going to talk to us about the inward journey and the importance of it. So Jim, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Bill. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Well, it is Marjorie took the words out of my mouth about preaching to the choir. So many of you I know and have been around the Church of the Savior much longer than me. I have been here 20 years, so I do feel like it's given me a little, given myself to the community long enough to be able to have gotten way more back than what I've given, and such a gift. So to be given an opportunity to talk about inward journey with people who've been on it, and for people who've never heard of it, it's a sacred thing, because I was a third-year student at Duke Divinity School in 1993 and heard about this thing called Church of the Savior, alternative church structure. And it was October of, well, it was October of 93. And I whispered to my classmate that this looked like me. And so indeed, being here has felt and looked like me. My first class at the Servant Leadership School was taught by Gordon. And I was a discipleship year volunteer in 2001. And many of you have taken that class. So this will, you'll know what I'm about to say. When I sat down and the class was packed, it was in the room right behind the chapel, the meeting room there in the festival center. And there were chairs had to be brought in, and everybody was there to hear Gordon. And I was so anxious to hear him teach and to soak up all that he knew. But Gordon had a different plan. He said, and I won't try to imitate his accent, although I can. He said, "You'll not be hearing much from me. You will be teaching one another." And there was a disappointment that flowed around. I just kind of wanted to hear Gordon talk. And that's what I thought I had come for. And the first assignment that he gave us for the following week was to write a one-page paper. And he said the subject is fairly simple and straightforward. And that is, I want you to write about what is your deepest pain and the pain beneath that pain. and silence flowed in the room, an uncomfortable silence. It's not the topic that I would have chosen to write about, much less read to strangers. So the next week's class was dedicated to us reading our papers and to our peers. And never had I been more nervous in a classroom setting. And the depth and the vulnerability was palpable. Paper after tearful paper was read. Such intimacy. Death, betrayal, adultery, abuse suffered, masks that hide, lost relationships, forgiveness never given or received. Honestly, about every kind of pain you can imagine. And a softness flowed through that room. And a veil parted. The Celtics call it the thin place, where the distance between heaven and earth is so thin, it's a veil you can almost see through. There was no need to compete, to pose, or to protect. All of our egos rested. The divine was dressed in all of our clothes that night. Risks were taken, and the reward was far greater than my own individual pain. Everyone else's pain became my own, and in some mysterious way, and at some mysterious level, lessened. And more than that, our pain was validated and swallowed up by a hungry God. And I left full. And we had church every Tuesday night in that class. Seminary never taught me how to do that. The church never showed me how to do that. Gordon and Mary, the shoulders on who we stand, saw, felt, and recognized the importance of nurturing their inner lives, the quiet space within where the Spirit has space and time to weave its magic through us. That has to happen first before you can walk out the door of your house, of your church, of the festival center, or wherever else you're walking out of. That is the only way to walk out equipped with the full armor of God to be able to do work. It does not happen. It will not happen in a healthy way unless the inner journey is nurtured. Now, it takes both. certainly. Inward journey and outward journey are held together equally. But it is my belief that the inner work must happen first. And we learn that through the person and work of Jesus, most of all. So I could go on, and I won't, but I thank you for listening. And I know for some of you, what I have just said resonates very deeply because you've had the same experience and may not have been in the same class. I hope you felt that. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Jim. That was beautiful. That really was powerful. Well, and that's what we're trying to hold in that tension and that necessary tension, that the emphasis on the inward journey and the outward journey. And so all these visions that we've had are now starting to come to fruition, and there's one person that's making those happen. Well, there's a whole lot of people that are making it happen, but they're under the direction of one person. And so she's pretty key in all of this. And so, and there's no better partner who really truly understands kind of the vision of what we want, of what we're wanting to do, than Shirley. Shirley Boober Rumble is the head of USource Services. And they have been absolutely, they've renovated or are in the process of fully renovating another property we own called Kayla McClurrick House. It's down at 2708 Ontario. And they're just getting started with 1640. And they do absolutely tremendous work. And so, Shirley, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you. So there we go.
Yeah, there
Perfect.
I go.
So Shirley, why don't you walk us through what some of these renovations are going to look like, and especially as they relate to those first and second floor turret rooms where we're calling the Center for Spiritual Formation.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good evening. For having me. Again, I'm, CEO of USource and do all of what Bill just said. It's been a great journey, I'd have to say. One with a lot of winds and turns, and as I think Marjorie was saying, the word call there was very meaningful. It meant a lot because, you think about calling, that's exactly what's happened. We've been called to take on what is a major, it's been a major undertaking, when we're finally, beginning to see the fruits of all that labor. And with that being said, I keep hearing formation. That word comes up. And what we're doing is, again, formation of space, as Bill just said, regarding the turret room, looking at the meeting space, looking at how does somebody experience the space from the time you walk into that building. What is it that you're taking away? And how conducive is that space as it's formed? And the proposed formation to accommodate the function, and function being spiritual development, spiritual growth. And so as we think about all these spaces, we spent a lot of time saying, okay, how do we really improve that experience? And as Bill mentioned, the first thought was, of course, that first, the first step is walking into that building, and what do we do there? And so as Bill mentioned, we, instead of having that the turret space, which is currently the chapel, you have this direct access from as soon as you walk in. You kind of now have it more enclosed. So what we did is we incorporated a new door so that sacred chapel is not so direct and open. It kind of, is a little closed in. So you can't see it here, but before you can walk right in before you even get inside. Now the door is on the other side of the entrance. In addition to that, the experience, as you're seeing here, is definitely more open, more transparent, and also accommodating multiple uses. And looking at ways that people can continue to enjoy that experience, and without too many walls, right? To sort of create that opportunity for folks to be able to communicate and network and engage And so that theme has been weaved throughout the first floor, and particularly in the second floor, as we have that co-work kind of open networking space. The mezzanine level here, as you can see, where you can look down and still be able to sort of take part of whatever else is going on in that area, where currently that's is completely closed off. So that's one aspect to the design. And then, of course, the second floor turret being another sort of open space where the second floor users of that space, be it small businesses, profit, maybe a community organization or individuals, can still be able to use that turret space, which is currently the conference room. And then we're tying that back into the third floor, where while you're not seeing it here, but the third floor does a lot of what this mezzanine level is doing. You have a whole new space that wasn't there. And so we're adding about a 3,500 square feet to the third level, which is a substantial amount of square footage, to accommodate more of that communal activity, to make space available for other nonprofits of different sizes, small, medium, even some that may be larger. And then here on the back area here, we have a terrace, an open terrace, so that we can enjoy the outdoor space and have events and activities there. In addition to what I would say is putting a ribbon on this is incorporating a more green, a more sustainable, a more healthy, tying back to, the spiritual aspect of, making forming our space and formation of space so that it is improving our lives. And so with solar and with all the green components, we're going to have a transformational situation here that's going to allow for what I say is more impact. And what are we all here to do is to improve the lives of each other, of people, right? And so that's the ultimate goal. And so we're hoping that, that will be achieved. And, I don't want to go any further, but as you can tell, we're very excited about this because, it's personal, because I just believe all of what we do is about impact. I believe God gives us this time on earth and these 10 fingers in that brain so that we can empower others and improve the lives of others. And we're so happy to be a part of this. So I'll leave that there, Bill. You tell me if I may have missed anything or if you need me to add anything else.
No, that's, I think that's an excellent summary of everything that's that we're going to be seeing, come to fruition. So it's a huge undertaking. I just laugh because I know Shirley has been so patient with us. We've, as with all visions and ideas and everything, it's grown dramatically, and she has been very gracious to remind us to say, now, we have to think in scope. We can't think of every single thing on the face of the earth and then do it. And so she's been a great molder and shaper of everything that we've been thinking through. So I'm going to now ask Lindsay, who's our Director of Development and a tremendous partner in this work, to speak a little bit about how the inward journey and outward journey really, really can nourish and feed into one another. Because one of the things that, as we build up the Center for Spiritual Formation, as we continue to engage in the justice work that we've been engaged in for really years now, we don't want to see these two things as separate. And one of the things about the renovations that we're really excited about is that the energy and the motion and the traffic and the people themselves, there's going to be a lot of interaction between the Center for Spiritual Formation and the co-working space on the second floor, where people from nonprofits, people from faith communities, people coming to meet and to plan and to strategize and to discuss how they're going to build movements for justice and all kinds of things are going to be able to interact with the center itself. So Lindsay, why don't you kind of walk us through that and kind of give us a broad kind of overall vision of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. It's great to see everyone. I know I've met a few of you individually. I have been at the Festival Center for about 4 months now, and it has been a joy to be a part of this impactful organization, and to also get to be a part of Church of the Savior with that. I unfortunately am a Lutheran, and so we don't do a lot of work in inward outward journey, although we say we do. It's kind of a lie, I'll tell you that, at least not the way Church of the Savior does. And one of the things that as I was preparing for tonight, I kept laughing about is that the inward journey is something I am the most comfortable with. And yet the outward journey is something that I'm the most uncomfortable with, using the voice that God has given me to lift up the voices of others. And I'm laughing because Bill always talks about how the inward journey is something he is uncomfortable with. And so today God has kind of laughed at us and asked him to talk a little bit about the inward journey, and me to talk about the outward journey. So we are journeying together. I am so thrilled to be a part of an organization that cares about both, that cares about how we grow inward and how we use what we've learned to impact others and advocate for others. And so as I was preparing for tonight, I was thinking a lot about how our inward journey affects how we approach the outward. Because if we haven't had the opportunity to sit and get to know ourselves and know the demons, for lack of a better term, I am Lutheran, by the way, within us, we won't be able to impactfully make a difference in the lives of others. So I want to share a quote with you. Through activism, we confront toxicity in our world. Through contemplation, we confront it in ourselves. And the Center for Spiritual Formation is allowing us to do that, to confront the toxicity, to confront our own biases, to confront the issues that we have with one another and within ourselves in a space that is safe to wrestle, to sit in silence, which is so hard to get to in this world, to find a place for contemplation and to find a place where we can come together and learn and grow. And so it is important for activists, both in the DC area and beyond, to be able to have a space that they can utilize for this idea of inward contemplation, so that when they do go to advocate for others, they understand where that advocacy is coming from. And it's coming from the God that has bestowed life upon us and dignity within everyone. And that's really what we're trying to be able to do with the Center for Spiritual Formation. One of the things that's really important to me and really important to the Festival Center is that we have the opportunity for partnership and for growth within one another. And so that is why the Center for Spiritual Formation didn't just come out of Bill's mind or my mind. It came out of minds like the people you see around this Brady Bunch screen we have. And we have an amazing group of individuals who are gathering to discuss what this inward outward spiritual formation looks like, and how, as Marjorie so eloquently put, we can meet in the middle and truly understand our call. And so we are meeting on a regular basis so that we can work to best support all of those advocacy organizations who want to use this space, not just the Festival Center, but the Center for Spiritual Formation, as an opportunity for growth within themselves. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Bill.
Thanks, Lindsay. That was really, really good, and appreciate so much, again, the partnership that we have together to focus on both the inward and the outward journey. As Lindsay said, the outward or the inward journey is a little bit of a little bit of a challenge for me. I am a Christian. I always like to remind people I do believe in Jesus, and I occasionally I pray. I'm just probably not the one you're going to ask to pray for you when you get in a jam. But no, it's really this has been an exciting challenge for me, and I really appreciate especially the leadership that folks like Marjorie and Jim and Basil and so many others have been that I've looked to them as to kind of begin to kind of reignite the inward journey for me, something that I've allowed to lay fallow for a long time. But I want to bring Jim back on. Jim, if you're still there, just to talk to us about why all of this is so important to support. You know, we've shown a lot of things that are happening, you know, in terms of the renovations and the plans that we have, and they're exciting, and I love envisioning them. But to make these things a reality, quite frankly, just it takes a lot of support and a lot of partnerships. And one of the things that we've tried to do since, you know, and for the last year and a half is to really view this not as a let's go out and get a bunch of money and try and see, you know, come up with a bunch of stuff that we can do, but really, as Lindsay said, to talk about how this evolves from the relationships that we have both in the Church of the Savior, but also outside Church of the Savior and in, you know, with justice organizations in DC and beyond. But I wanted to just bring Jim back on to talk, if you're okay with it, Jim, just to talk about why supporting the Festival Center is important to you.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. And I met Lindsay and sat down with Bill a few months ago, and when I heard them talk about, I'd heard Bill, but I had met Lindsay to see her so quickly come up to speed and enjoying her and seeing the partnership that they have and all of the people that are in this righteous struggle and fight. It was compelling to me to give to it myself. So I have pushed my chips in on the Festival Center with my money. And what's bigger than that is I push my chips in with my spirit and my energy. Money is wonderful, and we do need that for things like renovations and supporting that stuff. But that if that comes without spirit, then it's less of a gift, in my opinion. But I just want to say I have skin in the game here because I believe in it. The reason I believe in it is, well, it's our, and without any discredit to anything else that's a forward-facing part of our community. And I'm on the steering committee of the Potter Styles, which is near and dear to my heart. Many people that are on this call, it's a wonderful place, beautiful place. I believe the Festival Center has the capacity and has been in the past our most powerful outward-facing ministry. It's one that connects with its space and all of the myriad of ways that things are happening within it. And now that's even going to expand of what it can hold and contain. It is a container. It is a womb. It has been, and it needs to continue to be. And it's very obvious if you have spent time at the Festival Center since it opened 30 years ago, that it needs physical work. So we got to do that. And the womb, we need new wineskin. We need new wineskin, not the old wineskin, to hold what is coming. So we have to physically be prepared. But this womb, this outward facing place, and it's what connects with what's important in the world and how we might continue to be a place of reconciliation and justice. And not just because we want to be that place. It's not for us. So often churches are built, and I come from them, I've served them, that churches are built by groups of people that want it to reflect themselves. And then they invite other people in. And sometimes that's a righteous inviting, but oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes they're stuck in their neighborhoods, in their homogeneity, so on and so forth. I'm not down on church buildings. I am down on what happens when people don't make that jump, that this place is not for us. We are not building a place for us. This is not a country club. This is not a place for social gathering. It can be, but usually it doesn't look quite like the festival center looks, has looked and will look. The Come and See program. I set foot in the festival center the first time in 1998 and brought kids from my church where I was serving in Western North Carolina in the city of Morganton, and spent a week in the Come and See program and went around a lot of the ministries and sat beside an old man that prayed this long prayer at noon prayer. And it was a good prayer, but I got up from that prayer and I turned to Elizabeth McMeekin and I said, our week is almost over and I'm dying to meet Gordon Cosby. And she said, well, you've been sitting beside him for half an hour. And so I got indoctrinated within the festival center at an early age for me as a young pastor. And thinking about all the ways that the church has met the needs of the world or has struggled to do so, that has been facing outward to see how we can best be nimble. Nimble is a word that Gordon used with me when he talked. I made the mistake of asking him, should I go back into the United Methodist system? I mean, that's like asking a fish, would it like to be back in the water or would it like to be in the boat? And so Gordon told me to do my own thing, which is exactly what I've done. So I love the nimble parts of Church of the Savior, that if something doesn't work, then we let it go and we start something else. We don't get attached to outcome. We set high expectations, but we release the outcomes. And it's hard to do that in a place that's not nimble. It's hard to do that in a place that doesn't have space that can change and grow with our time. This past January, in one of the darkest months of the year, I took my counseling work, which had already been remote, and I went on a journey to visit some civil rights places. And I slept in the back of my Jeep and made my way down to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. And I had met John Lewis a few years before, and I'm so glad that I got to shake his hand and tell him what he meant to me and our country. And I wished him a very long life, and his cancer diagnosis had just been made public. And so I was hoping against hope. And John Lewis said back to me, well, I hope you have a long life too. I said, I don't think my long life has had as much impact as your long life. So I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and I became familiar with a 1960 news documentary on the sit-in movement for civil rights in the South. And John Lewis was recorded. If you can believe this, he was 20 years old when he said the following: there was a moving feeling within me that I was sitting there at the counter demanding a God-given right. And my soul became satisfied that I was right in what I was doing. And at the same time, there was something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system, that I had to be maladjusted to it. Yet in spite of all this, I had to keep loving the people who denied me service, who stared at me. I've used this in a couple sermons over the last 9 months, and I memorized those words. And the way of John Lewis and the way of so many revelators come from this inward place their outward movements, which have changed the course of history, came from that inward place. He is as beautiful, and I'm not just picking John Lewis because it just happens to be someone who moves me. There are many, many people whose names I don't know and whose names we don't know, very ordinary people who have changed the course of the world by virtue of their marriage between that inward and that outward journey. And so in order for John Lewis to change the world, to be the outward face in the midst of a deep systemic evil, he had to say and mean it, that I had to keep loving the people that denied me. So I believe that we are at a place in history, and I don't need to remind any of us on here what is at stake in our country with our leadership and with the divisive nature of our public discourse, political discourse. There needs to be another way. And that way is an inward way and it's an outward way. And we all walk around with that inward way. And we need a place that we can do this outward way together. So I don't know of a better way to spend my money and my energy than to make sure we have something. I would like for there to be something that when I die, somebody says that guy believed in what this place is doing way back at the time when our country really needed it. So I've gone on too long. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your hanging in with that. It was an honor to be able to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, so much. I was ready for the altar call. You would have had me down singing a song and crying with my friends here in a second.
I mean, I could do that too, Bill, if you want to, but I don't know if this is the right platform.
It's so good to see everybody again. Anthony, Dave, so many folks have been able to join us. Well, Jim, I think that's a perfect ending to what we've been talking about tonight. And especially, I mean, anytime you can end with a personal story of John Lewis, you got me hooked. But I'd love to hear if folks have questions either about what we're doing with the Center for Spiritual Formation or anything else that we're going to be focusing on, or if you have any questions specifically about the renovations themselves and the building that's happening. So just kind of get my attention or raise your hand through one of the little reactions down below. Or does anybody have anything?
Hi, it's Kumi.
Hey, Kumi.
And I just want to say thank you to each person that's here. And Jim Marsh, excellent. Thank you for what you said. I want to give a gift to everyone. There's a song from the movie Selma, and I think it was while they were walking across the bridge. One of my favorite songs. It's called Yesterday Was Hard on All of Us. And the group's name is Think. And that song is mind-blowing.
Mm.
And I'm grateful that this is based on the inward-outward journey, because seriously, I can't even tell you how much that has broken me open and allowed me to understand and love and connect with people on a deeper level. The first thing that just came to my spirit was, I clearly remember a time when I had the audacity to say, I don't like people who tell lies. And really, one of the biggest things I learned in my inward journey, there was a question that came to me was, do you lie? Have you ever told a lie? And it shocked and broke some things open in me. Like, wait, yeah, guess what? You do that same thing. So from this point on, Kumi, you can no longer dislike or have any type of animosity towards a person who you consider dishonest, because the finger points right back at you. That was one of the most powerful lessons in the beginning of going inward. There's so many more, but it has a massive impact on a person's humanity. and it brings about a connectiveness that I can't even describe. So I love that. Church of Christ right now has always been madly in love with the Festival Center and Church of the Savior and Gordon and everyone. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm excited and looking forward to more. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so encouraging always when you're around, Kumi. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sandra, you have your hand raised.
I just want to say, first of all, accolades to the board, of which I'm on sabbatical from, but the board has worked tirelessly on this effort, and I won't start naming everybody, but the other thing is I want to be explicit about why we're adding so much square footage, why the redesign is important at this juncture. And it obviously fits with what you've shared, what Lindsay has shared, and what Jim has shared. And that is, we are intentionally making space for more small nonprofits and other organizations to have affordable meeting space in order to be impactful with the Festival Center in the outward journey. And we hope to provide all of those renters, users with the tools for the inward journey to continue their work.
That's an excellent word, Sandra. And I'm glad you did a shout out to the board. I probably should have done that. But yeah, the board has absolutely been tireless in terms of their support and their enthusiasm for this. And it's been just honestly, and of course, I'm biased, but I think they're the best board I've ever worked with by far. And just appreciate so much their passion and their willingness to embrace kind of a from the left field kind of vision. But it's been fun. Any other questions or thoughts?
Bill, I'd like to say a word, and that is, this is a critical time because it's obvious there's tremendous gentrification going on right around the Festival Center. And it seems to me that the commitment to low-income housing and diversity is one that you are making visible. It's like we're planting our feet in that community and making space available to make it a diverse community. And I think the timing is really critical.
No, I appreciate that, Marjorie. And I think as Sandra shared, I mean, I cannot, and especially I know most of the folks that are in DC know this firsthand, but if you're not in DC, I cannot emphasize to you how incredibly expensive it is to find good meeting space, office space in DC. It is just an absolute it's incredibly challenging for folks. And so one of the neatest things has been, and even though the pandemic hit the 6th week I was there, we had to shut down, just even in those first few weeks, I loved being able to walk around the Festival Center sometimes at night and hearing different prayer groups and worship groups and different things that were happening, and knowing that they were able to do that because we were able to provide that space. And at the same time, knowing maybe in one space they were doing a prayer group, in another space there were folks that would never even darken the doors of a church, but they were there meeting as an AA group or an NA group, or doing a lot of other work, or having one of the nights I was there, there was a discussion by Palestinian rights activists, and then 2 doors down, the Friends of Jesus Church was meeting. So there's so many wonderful things like that happen, and that was a daily occurrence. And I look forward to having that daily occurrence when we reopen. So yeah, that's an incredible word, and that is, I believe, the absolute strength of what we're doing. Any other thoughts? Boy, these are good thoughts. I wish I had these thoughts. Any other questions? Well, I want to tell y'all, I know there's lots of things happening around the world and lots of things happening in your lives, and Zoom has taken taken over our lives in many ways. So I appreciate so much you spending an hour with us. We will be in touch with you to follow up and to see how we can further partner to make this this dream and all the things that we've talked about become a reality. I love what Jim shared. We're going to make this recording available to folks. I appreciate so much what you shared in the chat, Kim, and so many others that have shared on here and with me privately. I want to plug one thing before we go. As you can see on the screen, we did this last year when COVID there was a resurgence, and so we had music piped in, and so we kind of sang along to the piped in music. This year, we're hoping that the Christ House Choir will be able to lead us in caroling. I think they're going to be able to do that, but we're going to be out in front of our building. It's 1640 Columbia Road on December 8th at 5:30 p.m. I think the choir starts somewhere around 5:45 or so. And we're going to get to see each other in person, get to drink some hot cocoa, get to hand out some hot cocoa to folks that are coming by. And we'll get to sing Christmas carols, and the Christ House Choir will sing for us and with us and lead us and sing. So if you can, join us that, that I think that was that a Wednesday or Tuesday? Wednesday. I think it's a Wednesday. If you can, if you're in the area, join us. We'll also live stream it. So if you're not, you'll be able to participate that way. But again, I thank you so much for showing up tonight. You'll definitely be hearing from us if you haven't already. And we look forward to partnering with you to make this whole thing actually a reality. That'll be the funnest part of all. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Thank
So
you
good
for
to see
all
you,
you
Kumi.
do.
Thank
Good to see
Likewise.
Anthony. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Marjorie.
You bet. You bet. Happy to do it.
Together in prayer. Right.
Blessings, everyone.
Hi, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Ann.